friends, the famous monster Frankenstein here yet again. I feel a little different today, although I can't quite put my finger on why. Maybe because I'm about to go to Iraq.
And now a public service announcement from Superfly.
Salutations, folks. I'd like to take a moment to speak out on behalf of truth, justice, and the American way. Those are good things, good concepts. They've been discredited in recent years as America has emerged as the sole remaining global superpower and failed to live up to its own ideals. America has failed to stand for truth, justice, and ironically, even to stand for its own American way. Truth and justice demand that wars be fought overtly for defensible reasons. When you go to war, you should be able to level with the public and trust that they'll understand the reasons why. And as for the American way, as I see it, the American way calls for embracing immigrants and people from all different walks of life, people with different points of view. That's what I learned on Sesame Street anyway.
We now return you to Frankenstein.
My opinions about the future of Iraq haven't actually changed, but I'll recap them briefly. I believe that Iraq will effectively split into two countries, Kurdistan in the north and a Shia or Iranian-dominated south. I don't think Iran will actually occupy southern Iraq, just culturally and politically dominate the character of the state that emerges there. Some have suggested a third region in Iraq's Midwest dominated by Sunnis, but I don't think the Sunnis will be able to sustain that. I see only bad things coming for the Sunnis. With all of that going on, I think the area of the world that we call Iraq will continue to be called Iraq on the world's maps. So after American forces withdraw, I don't think most Americans will notice or care that it emerges as a unified state in name only. So I guess you could say that I don't believe in the stated objectives of the war. Rather, whether I believe in them or not, I don't believe that America will be successful in achieving those objectives. Operation Lost Cause, in other words. That being the case, why would I go? Mr. President?
They're attacking our military. They've attacked Muslims. They're killing foreign aid workers who are helping to rebuild Iraq. They've linked up with foreign fighters and terrorists. They're offended by our existence as free nations. They seek bases of operation to train more killers. They seek weapons of mass destruction. They seek the total control of every person. They're not going to succeed.
No. There may be tiny grains of truth to that kind of argument. But however you phrase it, the whole point is pure jingoism. The basic argument there is that America will win because America is better. So, Mr. President?
Who can doubt that Iraq is better for being free? Who would wish that more mass graves were still being filled? Who would prefer that Saddam's torture chambers still be open? Who would begrudge the Iraqi people their long-awaited liberation?
Actually, I can doubt that. The Iraqi people are not better off today than they were before the invasion. Also, much emphasis has been placed on how we need to fight the terrorists in Iraq rather than within the United States. I don't see how you can use Iraq as a magnet for terrorists and simultaneously argue that the Iraqis are better off with all those terrorists running around, right? How can we say that Iraq is free from tyranny while openly acknowledging that America's actions have introduced various factions of petty tyrants into the country? I think that, to whatever extent the Iraqis now enjoy political freedom, they've had to sacrifice their own personal safety and simple ability to walk down the street unmolested. And if I had to guess, I'd say that most Iraqis would have preferred the safety. So what's the real reason for America's presence in Iraq?
Exterminate! Annihilate! Destroy!
No guys, that was just a joke, or was it? I don't know, so really, why would someone who believes what I believe go? I wish I could sum it up neatly for you guys, but in reality it's complicated. I'm obliged to go. There are some people I'll be going with that I'd rather they don't die. And whether Frankenstein is in Iraq or not, the Iraq war will still be happening for at least another year or so, optimistically. Meaning that I'm not the cause of it, and I'm not able to stop it, but I can be there on the ground and maybe have some kind of positive impact on smaller events.
And now a word from Captain Obvious.
Greetings. It is I, Captain Obvious. For years now, no one prominent in the public eye has spoken to you candidly about the war in Iraq. Both those who oppose the war and those who support the war have either failed to understand the issue or else, and this is far more likely in my eyes, they've distorted the facts to suit their own goals. Given my unique position, it saddens me that Americans have apparently lost their capacity to appreciate the obvious.
And now, back to Frankenstein.
You know what bothers me? The use of American soldiers for political purposes. Many Republicans cite a need to support the troops as their justification for funding the war. But Congress's ability to pull money away from military actions is a fundamental check and balance on the president's power that's built into the American system. If Congress didn't fund the war, that would force the president to end it. That issue isn't about the support of soldiers. Congress has never suggested taking the guns out of the hands of soldiers on the ground. If the war wasn't funded, then that would be forecasted far enough in advance for soldiers to withdraw without undue threats to themselves. I consider the Republican argument for funding to be disingenuous propaganda. Unfortunately, recent Democratic posturing over the war is likewise disingenuous propaganda. Without actually sticking their necks out to provide any kind of support or relief to America's military, they just turn soldiers into photo ops. They go down on record as opposing the war and affirm the need to bring soldiers home soon, merely for their own political purposes. Because if they were so righteous, they'd take actions the president could not ignore, like cutting off funds. They pretend there's nothing they can do, which simply isn't true. There's nothing easy that they can do. Frankly, it all sickens me. I'd rather see the next president picked at random off the street than to come from either of the two major parties. And now, for my first ever fabulous stunt of the week, in which I jump over a terrifying man-eating shark. Hasta la Rasta.